heart of a medieval village, nestled between dark forests and mist-laden valleys, the Black Death raged with an unrelenting fury. The plague, like a sinister shadow, crept into homes, taking fathers, mothers, children, and elders without prejudice. Amidst the chaos, a peculiar figure emerged from the depths of the forest, a man garbed in a long, black cloak, his face hidden behind a bird-like mask. The villagers whispered of him in hushed tones, calling him the Plague Doctor. No one knew where he came from or what he wanted, but desperation and fear were stronger than suspicion. The villagers, desperate for salvation, allowed him into their homes. He would enter silently, his every movement precise and deliberate. With gloved hands, he would inspect the afflicted, his mask hiding any expression as he murmured words in a language long forgotten. But what set this doctor apart from the others was not just his eerie presence. Unlike the other physicians, who came to treat the sick and often left them to their fate, this doctor's touch seemed almost supernatural. The afflicted would fall into a deep, unnatural sleep after his visit. When they awoke, the sickness would be gone, but something in them had changed. Their eyes, once filled with pain, now glinted with an unsettling emptiness. Rumors spread quickly. Some said he was an angel of death, come to claim souls for the afterlife. Others believed he was a demon, curing the body but corrupting the soul. Yet, none dared confront him, for his presence, though terrifying, brought an end to the suffering. One day, a young woman named Elara, who had lost her entire family to the plague, dared to approach the Plague Doctor. Her eyes, red from weeping, held a flicker of hope. She begged him to save the last of her kin, a young brother who lay on the brink of death. The doctor turned his masked face toward her, and without a word, followed her to her home. The house was dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of death. The young boy lay motionless, his skin ashen, his breathing shallow. The doctor knelt beside him, examining him with the same methodical precision he had shown countless times before. But as he reached into his leather bag to retrieve his instruments, Elara noticed something unusual. Beneath his cloak, his skin seemed not of this world. It was pale, almost translucent, and as his sleeve shifted, she caught a glimpse of something that made her blood run cold. His arm was not entirely human. It was twisted, with elongated fingers that seemed more like claws than hands. The doctor sensed her gaze, and turned to face her. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then, he spoke, his voice a low, rasping whisper that sent shivers down her spine. "The pestilence," he said, "is not what you think it is. It is more than just a sickness of the body. It is a corruption, a disease of the soul. I cure them, yes, but only by purging what has been tainted." Elara trembled as his words sunk in. She wanted to run, to flee from the horror that stood before her, but her love for her brother anchored her to the spot. "Will he be the same?" she asked, her voice barely audible. The doctor turned back to the boy, his gaze inscrutable behind the mask. "He will live," he said, "but he will never be the same." Elara watched as the doctor worked, his movements almost ritualistic. When he was done, the boy's breathing had steadied, and the color returned to his cheeks. But as Elara looked into her brother's eyes, she saw that the light of his spirit had dimmed, replaced by a cold, hollow stare. The Plague Doctor rose, his task complete. Without a word, he gathered his tools and turned to leave. But before he stepped out into the night, he paused and looked back at Elara. "Remember," he said, "I am not your savior. I am merely a caretaker, tending to those who suffer from the pestilence. The cure is not without its price." And with that, he vanished into the shadows, leaving Elara alone with her brother, who now sat up in bed, looking at her with eyes that were no longer his own. As the days passed, the plague began to wane, and the villagers hailed the Plague Doctor as their savior. But Elara knew the truth. She saw it in the eyes of those he had cured. They were alive, but the spark that made them human was gone. The village, once plagued by death, was now plagued by something far more insidious, an eerie silence, as if the very soul of the place had been drained away. And somewhere, in the dark forests that surrounded the village, the plague doctor continued his work, forever seeking to rid the world of the pestilence, one cure at a time.